Welcome to the third edition of the Talbot Spy Report. I'm Dave Whelan, publisher and executive editor of The Spy, and we have quite a selection of highlights from last month's spy outings where we've been exploring the nooks and crannies of Talbot County and its people. First up, there's a new director at the Academy Art Museum, and his name is Ben Simons. After almost 16 years working with the Nantucket Historical Society and their hugely successful museum edition, Ben and his wife, the artist Allison Cooley, and their young daughter are now calling Talbot County home. We spent a few minutes with Ben to understand some of his priorities with one of the area's most beloved art institutions.
Initially, I wanted to be an English professor. I love poetry and I love writing. I love the written word, but I'm also very visual, and so I was heading in that direction. But there was something else that really caught me, which was that I always felt an incredible sense of peace in museums. You're in the presence of art. You're in this beautiful setting, and it's restorative. It's inspiring, it's challenging, because we have to remember that art is not just peace-inducing, it's also challenging and provocative. But for me, I always felt museums were sanctuaries. And that was true into my grad school period when I was studying literature. I would go to New York and go to the Met and go to other institutions and just hang around. And I felt that, among the public spaces that we have available in our lives, museums are some of the most precious. What people call a third space. You have your home, you have work, and then you need third spaces which are in between, where you can feel whole and feel inspired. I was doing a PhD in English literature and kind of realized that I wanted to go my own way. I moved to Nantucket with my wife Allison, who's an artist and a painter, and she was working in high-tech PR of all things. In the DC area, early days of the internet and WorldCom and UUNet. But she was sort of burnt out on it and really wanted to be an artist. So we moved to Nantucket Island, where she had been a summer visitor, and moved into a small cottage called the Outhouse. Yes, I was fortunate. The museum on Nantucket, which was a very venerable institution with a great collection, and 22 historic properties as well, was in the process of renovating and building a modern museum facility. And so I was hired to be a big part of that process. Got great experience in museums and exhibits, producing permanent collection exhibits and changing exhibitions. And then eventually I became the chief curator there. And really a wonderful time of my life. Since coming to the Academy, which has been 4 months now, I've had what I'm calling an education revelation because I'm seeing the incredible amounts of arts education that we do here. And I'm realizing that we serve a public role here as the providers of arts education for 5 counties, for our region. We offer all the schools free programming and busing. We will travel to schools. We have a very active adult education program too, arts education program. And last year, in 2016, we served over 3,800 students, which is really incredible. We also have this very fine exhibition program, and that has been elevated in recent years under the guidance of our chief curator, Anke van Wagenberg. And we have great plans for that. We want to start an artist in residence program, for instance, and we're looking to do that this fall. So this place is really, I'm calling it a small but mighty institution. And it has a national profile. We have this special relationship with the National Gallery, thanks to Rusty Powell and Nancy Powell, who's on our board. And we've been able to do some very significant shows of Rothko and Rauschenberg. And those are serious shows for an institution of this size. And we have ambitions to do more and more of that. We have historically had great relationships with the Walters in Baltimore, with the Baltimore Museum of Art, A friend and colleague has just been named the director there, so hopefully we can build up that collaboration even more. We're about to launch our new website for the Academy, and that's happening this week. And on the website, which really brings us into the 21st century, I would say, it's got a nice, wonderful, clean look to it. It's easy to navigate. All of our classes and registrations are on there. But we also have been digitizing our permanent collection, and there will be a feature soon which allows you access to our permanent collection. We have over 1,300 works in the collections, and at any given time, a portion of them are on display, but they come into our changing exhibition program. So we want them to be accessible, permanently accessible to the public. Well, I must say it was good timing to arrive now, because we are bringing back our Academy Craft Show this year, and it's celebrating its 20th anniversary, which is an amazing achievement. It really is. So we've been able to secure as our visionary artist this wonderful ceramicist, Bennett Bean. I've known his work for a while. He's quite well known nationally, and he has agreed to be our featured artist for the craft show. And then we have another anniversary, a big one, the 60th anniversary of this institution, founded in 1958 by concerned and passionate citizens here in Easton. And they wanted, a place for the teaching and appreciation of art. So we will be celebrating that big time in 2018.
Switching channels, the SPY now takes a look at the important mission of the Talbot Mentors. A few weeks ago, we sat down with Natalie Constanzo, the Talbot Mentors Executive Director, to talk about the extraordinary legacy of this homespun organization devoted to pairing volunteers with children eager to have a friendship with an adult outside their immediate family.
The organization started by a gentleman called Phil Kirby, and he noticed that there was a need for this in Talbot County. He started it out of his home. It was completely volunteer run. I think they had under 10 mentors when they first started. It was a very grassroots, organic organisation, and it grew from there. The first executive director they actually hired was Nancy Andrew, who now runs Habitat for Humanity, and she was here for 8 years. So she really, as well as Phil Kirby, got the organisation off the ground. It's not like other volunteering. You really, you have to commit to a kid. So it's not something people might read an article in the paper and be like, I'm going to do that. We have found that it takes people 3 to 5 times hearing about us before they approach us or come to us. So the idea might cement in someone's mind, and they might be like, oh, I'd love to do that. My kids have just left home. I'd like to do it. And the idea's there, but they don't act on it straight away. We find that then they might hear something on the radio. Then they might go to one of our fundraising events. Then they might meet someone in their neighbourhood who's mentoring a kid. And then they come to us. So it takes people a little bit of time before they commit, and that's actually what we want. And we have been so lucky in the last year. I mean, we're doing 5 matches a month. We are having people literally walk through the door and say, I want to be a mentor. And a lot of that is because we have had a lot of new mentors come on board, and our most powerful recruitment tool is word of mouth from people doing it, who love it, and are getting more out of it than the kid. So they talk to people and they're like, I came on board to help the kid, but I am getting so much more out of this relationship, I feel bad. So once people hear that, and they hear that the kid just wants to be with you, and you don't have to do special stuff, you can just literally do your chores. I had a kid with me the other day, and we went to the post office, I took them to the bank. Pretty boring stuff, right? He thought it was the best day ever. Our mentors see the kids once a week. That tends to go down as the kid gets older. So when kids are elementary school, it's about once a week. But then if that kid, once they're in high school, if they're playing a school sport, their time is limited. So sometimes it goes to once every 2 weeks or once a month as they get older. But at the initial stage, it's once a week, about 2 hours a week. And people, as I said, do sometimes just take kids along with them to do chores. They go to and hang out at their house, cook a meal together, have dinner. Another one of our mentors has organised for her little girl to do art classes at the art academy. So she takes her from school and they do the art class together, and then they go have dinner, and that's what they do every week. So, you know, it's really varied. As
Living.
Yeah, they're just having fun, and usually when kids are busy, they talk. So if you're just sitting down, sometimes it's awkward, right? It's like being on a date at a restaurant. You know, it's awkward. But if you're doing a woodwork project together, or a painting together, or fishing, or canoeing, or taking your dog for a walk, kids talk more. As I said, it costs $2,500 per kid in the program to provide the support for the relationship to ensure that it lasts, and to provide the quality programs to make sure we're taking the right kids in and finding the right adults. So that whole science that you called it behind the match takes a lot of time and resources of the staff and organisation to get it right, and then the ongoing support, and then all of the extracurricular programs and activities that we offer to support those matches as well that we talked about. So my favourite thing to do is match a kid and a mentor. Matches are amazing. Like, you can imagine, you know, you've got it's all a bit like a date, a bit stressful because the mentor's nervous, the family's nervous, the kid's nervous, but just to watch them start to get to know each other and realise that they're there for each other, and you can't put a price on that. And that's really what this program's about, is about, you know, matching kids with an adult who's able to open up the world for them and show them different things and different experiences. And mentors get to see that nearly every week, because if you're mentoring a kid and, you know, doing things with them they haven't done before, I mean, that's cool. Like, being able to see kids have that first experience doing something, it's, you know, it's awesome.
It's a good bit that many Talbot County residents are still missing the weekly edition of Car Talk that ran on National Public Radio almost 15 years ago. Listening to the Click and Clack brothers on Saturday mornings was a ritual for those who really had a passion for automobiles. That show came to mind when the Spy interviewed Mike Healy at the Bay 100 repair shop in St. Michael's. In fact, we thought he might be the third brother.
I started this in 1997, so we're going to celebrate 20 years this year. And it was just me, by myself. And now we have 5 people that work for us. And then my brother and I opened up the marine shop with just him and I. And now we have 4 people that work there. The battle right now is on the software front. And it's kind of between the Freedom of Information Act, where they're supposed to release this information. It gets a little kind of mixed up when they throw it through there. So we get some of the information some of the time. We get all the information some of the time. Oh, there's fights down in DC all the time because the lobby groups for the independent repair shops is constantly fighting to get the information released. And then they ask which information you like. We want it all, you know, obviously. I mean, we pay now a subscription for, I bet you we pay probably $800 a month in just informational subscriptions. So we're spending thousands of dollars a year, and what's ended up happening is your little tiny shops where it's only maybe 1 guy or 2 people tops, they can't function. Yeah. You have to be of a certain size to be able to have enough volume in business to absorb that. And the next battle on the horizon, it's been in most of the trade magazines, is telematics, which is like the GM Star program, you know, where you'd be able to like push a button and they can find you or unlock your car and that kind of stuff. And that's a proprietary software, which means they're locking out the independents from being part of that. Their latest thing now is they're actually be able to monitor your car and send you a message on your car that you do for service, and by the way, the next dealer is 2 miles down the road. And that's the biggest battle we're fighting now, because it's basically, again, it's a monopolized, closed market. So we're trying. Most of our information now, we find that we text to our customers. So we'll do, like, all of our technicians right now have handheld tablets. So all the information, there's no more paper really going back and forth. They get the information from the service advisors on the tablet. They have all the history of the cars, repairs from here. They've got the information on how to repair the cars. And they have the ability to do a digital inspection with photographs, digital photographs, that we then, hypothetically, you brought your car to get checked out, we do the checkout, we will shoot you over a text message saying, hey, here's the checkout for your car with pictures if we see anything wrong that you can visually see. The one good thing that the federal government did do is that they gave you the right, I think it's the Magnuson Act, where you can get your car serviced anywhere you'd like, as long as you document it and they use proper parts and will not void the warranty. So, like, we just did an oil change yesterday for a customer on a 2017 Honda. They just like coming here. They're like, I don't want to go to Honda, I want to come here. We've been coming to you for 20 years, this is where we want to come. Troubles. I actually had a customer years ago with a Lincoln Navigator. We were doing all the oil changes, and one day he came in, he said, I have a noise. It was an engine knock. Went to the dealer, I told them, I said, you should go to the dealer, you're under warranty. They called up, they said, we need to see the service records. We emailed him over the service records. He got his engine replaced under warranty. Like Subaru and the rest of the dealers would like you to think that they're the ones that make the parts. But if you really think about it, they have what they call an assembly line, which means they assemble parts. They assemble cars. They don't buy the parts. So we actually can buy from the same source that makes the part for Subaru or Mercedes or Volvo. And it's unusual sometimes, like, we'll get them and they'll come in a Volvo box. Our main, probably angle of, attack is we're there when you need us. We're hometown. You get to know us personally, and, you just feel like it's more of a home style feeling to it. And a lot of people would prefer that over going to the major dealers. The slogan of the business is hometown service with tomorrow's technology.
The board of Talbot Hospice did a very nice thing for the community the other day. They sponsored a lecture by Dr. Konstantin Klysos, perhaps one of the leading experts in the field of dementia. Before Dr. Klysos traveled to Easton from his clinic at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, the SPY sat down with him to talk about his lifelong research into one of the most troubling and complex parts of our brain functions.
Yeah, dementia is an umbrella term. It's what we call a syndrome. It's a collection of signs and symptoms. So people have memory loss of a particular kind or some other cognitive disability. They can't use language very well. They're impaired in visuospatial abilities. They have trouble making decisions or paying attention. So dementia really refers to having two or more of those impairments, to the extent that the person really can't function well on their own. So you might have a lot of trouble getting organized and be very forgetful and no longer able to live alone. That's dementia. Well, think of dementia a little bit like having angina, where the heart is stressed, but there are many different causes in the heart that cause the angina. So dementia isn't really in the brain. Dementia is a result of brain damage. But sometimes the angina is not a result of a heart problem. Sometimes it feels like a heart problem, but it might be a liver problem or a gallbladder problem or an ulcer. Same thing with dementia. Most of the time it's because of some brain condition, but not always. So that's one of the reasons we like to get people evaluated as early as possible, because occasionally we discover things that say, oh, no, this is not dementia, or this is a dementia we can fix. So for example, people who have depression late in life, that depression can cause dementia. It impairs memory, it impairs organizational ability. But if we get the depression better, many times we get the dementia better as well. There are many factors, and vasculature of the brain, high blood pressure, diabetes, those are all risk factors. Head injuries are probably risk factors, especially younger in life. Depression is a risk factor. Probably the strongest two risk factors are getting older and having the wrong genes. Well, I'm optimistic and I'm also pessimistic. I think from the point of view of the situation we have now, which is we understand reasonably well what's going on in the brain, we can describe the kinds of symptoms that people have and the disabilities they get, and we are therefore able to design treatment programs that help them be as functional as possible. So we have reasonably good what we call best practices under the current capabilities. I'm more pessimistic about the likelihood that we're going to get those cures. I think they'll show up, but I don't see them imminent in the next 5 to 10 years. 25 years ago, we were more hopeful, yeah, because the first major relevant discovery was that Alzheimer's dementia was linked with loss of a particular brain structure called the nucleus basalis. And in those days, we knew that that nucleus, that part of the brain, made a chemical called acetylcholine. So the initial thought was, we'll fix this by just replacing the acetylcholine. And there are medicines that do that. Things like donepezil, all the cholinesterase drugs. I don't want to endorse one or the other, but Aricept is the one that most people are familiar with. That's basically what it does. It improves the amount of acetylcholine in your brain. So we did that, and then we discovered that really the loss of that part of the brain, the nucleus basalis, is downstream. There's upstream damage that damages and kills that part, but many other brain parts. So then the next major discovery was this idea that a protein that we call beta amyloid starts clumping out in the brain, and that's what's killing the nucleus basalis and all these other parts. Wow. So for 15, 20 years, the effort now has been to bust the amyloid, if you will. The problem is we've tested quite a number of amyloid-busting drugs that we know get in the brain, that we know bust the amyloid, and for the most part, they don't help people with dementia. And that could be because there's too much brain damage, and so we need to start giving these drugs well before the dementia, when the amyloid is first forming. And that's where we are now. That's what the studies are doing. So if you're 60 and you're on 10 different medicines, it's rare that you're 60 and you need to be on 10, and having fewer might improve your memory. If you drink too much, now if you drink too little, it's probably not so good for you either. But drinking too much, or obviously using drugs, that can be bad for the brain. Nowadays, sedatives and painkillers are a major issue that cause memory symptoms. Sleep disturbance is big. That often links in with a stressful lifestyle. And then, of course, depression. So all of those, if someone shows up with memory loss at 50 or 60, those are the kinds of things we look for. Life. Our encouragement is that you decide who will be making decisions for you if you're not able to make them for yourself. We ask people to give guidance in the form of how much life support would you want under different circumstances. But we also encourage them not to bind themselves too often through a living will. Many people withdraw their living will if they don't have dementia at the end of life. People with dementia can't do that. So we don't want our patients to get themselves trapped. They need a decision maker. They need a sense of what their wishes would be. So starts early, think about it. And then the next question is, how can we anticipate that the end of life is approaching in dementia? That's one of our biggest challenges.
And finally, we leave you with a food story. A few weeks ago, the spy traveled to Trapp, Maryland to interview Ryan Grohl, co-founder and co-owner of EatSprouts.com. Ryan and his wife Emily decided to quit the Western Shore rat race and develop a business that focuses on the preparation and cooking of locally sourced produce, dairy, and meat. And then they distribute those meals at a modest cost throughout the Mid-Shore.
Predominantly the main concept is a customer goes on the website, they order what they want, we deliver it. We do our deliveries 2 days a week, at the beginning and at the end of the week, so that you can get your meals for the week and then your meals for the weekend. And you can pick anything you like. That's the difference between small scale versus large scale. Large scale, you don't get a pick. It's a membership, and they just send you random things. For us, you pick what you like, pick what you don't, and you don't have to order every day. You don't have to order every week. You can order sporadically. So what we do is we can either deliver it directly to your house. If you're home, we'll just give you the food. If you're not home, we can do one of two ways. A lot of our customers, they have refrigerators in their garage. We put them in there, so they come home and it's done. Or we can leave them in insulated coolers, and they're fresh and they're ready to go right outside. We usually find a shade spot or put it in the backyard for them. And then on the next delivery, we just swap, take the old one back, give them a new one again. So what we do is we have a forever changing menu, and that's the hardest part. I mean, it's just constantly evolving because seasons, everything's in season. So what you ordered this week, we certainly won't have it next week.
Right, okay.
We might not have it for another 3 or 4 weeks. But we're always rotating through. We always have different breakfast options, soups, salads, and snacks. I'd say about 99% of our meals are gluten-free. We just don't cook with gluten.
Yeah.
We just don't. I mean, we have one thing that's like we have a lentil and barley soup and a lentil and barley sliders that we do, burgers.
Yeah.
But other than that, everything else is made with the gluten-free oats that we use our own oat flour when we bake all of our stuff. So we have pork, we have turkey, we have chicken, we have beef, we have every meat you can think of. Our main source is to make sure that it's been pasture raised.
Mm-hmm.
Pasture raised and humanely raised is more important to me than anything else. We don't really use sugar. We don't cook with any conventional sugar. We don't have any kind of white sugar. We don't even have it in our kitchen. If we cook with something that's sweet, we would use either local honey or organic blue agave, which we'll use in some things, organic maple syrup. And other than that, we actually just use stevia in the raw. The shelf life on everything is typically anywhere between 4 to 6 days. Obviously, our baked goods last even longer. Our snacks are even longer than that. They could be 2 to 3 weeks. But to give you an example of the freshness, we'll go back to our dairy, or we'll do our greens. Our dairy, we always get our dairy every Wednesday. That's because, like I said, it's a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
That's when they're available to meet us. And they don't even come here. I have to meet them in the parking lot of either Rise Up or at Earth Origins, and it's a little dairy handoff. I give him cash, he gives me milk. But it was milked that night before.
Yeah.
So it's that fresh. So on Tuesday, they milk the cows, they make the yogurt, we get it on Wednesday, and we use it on Thursday. So it's extremely fresh. Our greens are the same way. We have a Baywater greens and a couple others over in Salisbury. And they understand that if we're going to make a salad on Monday, it's got to last till Thursday or Friday. So they actually harvest the greens Monday morning between like 2 and 4 in the morning. They deliver it to us Monday afternoon. We package it Monday. You get it Tuesday. So you're getting a salad where the greens are less than like 24 hours old.
Yeah.
It's going to last for about 5 or 6 days. It's just phenomenal, the integrity and the quality of this product.
Thanks again for watching. We'll be back next month.